Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and as you can tell from the countdown clock, the lesson is about to get started. In case you're new with us, there's a few things I'd like to show you to help you throughout the lesson. These lessons are always guided and shaped by your questions, and if you're live with us today, there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is in the public live chat, and the other is the Ask Jamin a Question button, where you can ask me a question privately, and I won't share your identity in case you're afraid that your question is stupid. But it's not. If you're in the archives, though, then just open up the survey. At the end of that, there's a place where you can ask your question. I will say I frequently get questions from students in the archives watching a lesson from 6 months ago, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So please try to be as specific as possible. If you're watching this at LearnPianoLive.com, there should be a PDF and an MP3 button right next to this video. The PDF will often have additional video links inside so you can get more in-depth instruction on each of the topics. And if you're the kind of person who likes to print out the PDF so you can make the same notes on your physical version as I'm making during the lesson, now would be the time to do that. The MP3 is just a play-along track so you can practice more after the lesson. In traditional lessons, a teacher is going to actually present some new concept for maybe 5 or 10 minutes every couple weeks. The rest of the time is going to be spent applying and refining those concepts. Well, here I'm spouting off hours of new information every week, so it's totally unreasonable to expect you to actually absorb all of that. Instead, the goal of these live lessons is for you to find some little nugget of something that makes sense, but is a bit of a challenge, and for you to go practice it, because practice is where all the improvement's going to happen. So don't feel bad if you have to leave the live lesson and you find that little thing that you're going to practice. And of course, if I'm going too fast, you can always rewind the live lessons or replay in the archives as much as you want. If these live lessons start feeling random or meandering, it's because they are, on purpose. So if you're the kind of person who wants classical training with a step-by-step method, then you're going to want to check out Kloppel Academy on the website. It's included in your live lesson subscription, so you can do both or either. And the upper levels are seriously hard work, but it's going to take you all the way from ground zero, all the way up to being ready to enter any major music college as a piano major in classical or jazz. And finally, it's most people's favorite. This is application, where we take the past concepts from other live lessons and we see how they apply to an actual, real song that already exists. And since there's like 1,000 different ways to play any song, you're just going to work on the version that is appropriate for your level. So that might just mean playing one note at a time for right now. Or maybe you're working on chords or covering the full song. Or maybe you're just seeing how the song breaks down so you can better write and transcribe your own songs in the future. But whatever your level is, the goal is not this song. So even if you don't play the whole entire song, you'll get better by even attempting a little bit of it, and attempt it we shall. Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com, everybody. I've got a feeling this is going to rock. We're going to do Isn't She Lovely, which we always do songs by request, whatever songs get requested the most by the students. But I'm always excited when Stevie Wonder gets requested a lot, because he's just one of the most amazing musicians alive right now, and his songs are just incredible. So let's go ahead and figure out how to play this first thing here. This very first note's got a sharp in it, so in order to play the first note of this song, we're going to have to find first a G and then a G sharp. So in order to find a G, we're going to take any group of 3 black notes, like those right there, and take the middle note and drag it down. That we'd land on a G. The note that we were just on is actually the note that we want, though. This one right here, it's slightly higher than a G, and that's what that little hashtag is about inside of that note. That little sharp sign means slightly higher than G. So we're gonna play G. By the way, I didn't mention this yet, but you probably noticed Kendra isn't here, and so if you've got any questions for me, probably the best way to get that in is in the LearnPianoLive.com chat, and then I've still got the other one open over here, so I'm going to try to moderate that chat and take any questions there as well. But definitely, if you throw it in on the website, then I'll get those, be able to answer those. So anyway, the first note we want is this one right here. And so we've got G sharp, and then we're going to go to A, right there, and that's isn't. Right back to G sharp for the next note, and then F sharp. So this is the note that's slightly higher than F. There's a lot of sharps in this song because we're in the key of E, which just means it's a key where E is the most important note, and it's gonna have at least 4 notes in it that are going to be sharp. All the Fs are going to be sharp, all the Gs are going to be sharp, all the Cs are going to be sharp, and all the Ds are going to be sharp. So we're not going to play any Fs or Gs or Cs or Ds. They're all going to be sharp versions. Okay, so we've got G sharp, A, G sharp, F sharp, and then that E that says the most important note is the last one. And I highly recommend that you say the words along with your playing as you're going through. So isn't she lovely? This will both help with your ear training, help you to be able to just play songs that you hear in the future. It also helps you keep track on the music of exactly what syllable you're on, because you may not recognize it, but it's actually kind of a tricky thing where you've got a word with multiple syllables, but then each of those syllables often get different notes on the piano. So that's where a lot of people get mixed up and get lost in the music, is they've got something like isn't, and it feels like this should just be isn't. One note per word, but it's not one note per word. Okay, so we got isn't she lovely? And along with the track, that would be something like this. This track is really super bluesy. It's not nearly as smooth as the original version, so it's just got a different flavor to it. It sounds like this. It did sounded like it just a second ago. Well, that's something different. All right, let me pull it up in a different program. For some reason, that one's not liking me. It knows Kendra isn't here. Like, he doesn't have time now to fix it. Lesson files. Oh, did I bring the volume down? Nope. There we go. And a 1, 2, isn't. And that's all it's going to play for me. Great. Okay, we'll try this other one then. Sounds like this. And a 2, and a 1, 2, isn't she lovely? And they do the exact same thing again. Isn't she wonder? And then full is its own note right down here. It's going to be a C sharp. So, isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonder? Is the exact same thing, exact same set of notes. And then full. Isn't she precious? Is the exact same thing as isn't she lovely, and less than 1 minute old is the exact same thing as the other one. So if you can get those first notes, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes down, then you've got the majority of the first half of the song. You've got pretty much the whole first half. Then we're gonna go to a G sharp right here. G sharp, A, B, B for I never thought. And then the exact same thing, first 3 notes, through love weed, but this time we're gonna go down to an A. Making 1 is all G sharp, so it's still kind of staying all in this range. Isn't terrible melodically. 1 as lovely as she. And then fortunately it comes back and does the exact same thing from before. Isn't she lovely? C sharp, and then the last 2 notes that we didn't have up in the top part are from love. If you want to, you can play all of these notes in a row. That's the that thing in between, or you can just ignore that because the melody might be tricky enough as it is. So the whole thing all together is going to be something like this, and a 2, and a 1, 2. Isn't she wonder? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought through love we'd be making 1 as she. Isn't she from love? And then we go right back into it. And if you're playing along with the play along track that we release to go along with these, then that just loops immediately back into it right there. So you do have time to play that thing right there before you go back into it again. So let's try that thing one more time. This is all of the notes, and if you can't get the rest of it, just get the part that goes isn't she, and maybe even love and lead, because that shows up 5 times in the song. And a 2, and a 1, 2. Isn't she lovely? Wow, it's a long ending. Cool. So yeah, that's all of the notes. I guess that means it's time for our feature of the day. And today our feature is going to be the website of the day. I've got to show you this site. This used to be way, way cooler. This is showmethat.com. So this is all like gospel, R&B, piano stuff, and organ stuff, which a lot of the licks and stuff cross over. So I watch a lot of organ tutorials and stuff to pick out piano licks and stuff. But now everything is totally paid for. So what I would do is just go. I used to spend hours on this site just watching people playing different versions of different voicings of chords and stuff like that. Picked up a whole lot from it, and then everything is totally paid now. So those sites that make you pay for stuff, I can't believe those. But anyway, if you click on the YouTube channel, that they still have a lot of their old stuff here. So what I do is I just go to their YouTube channel, and then I go to their videos, and then I just sort it by the oldest videos, because all the oldest stuff is the best, and it's not just ads for stuff that they're trying to sell you. So if you sort by the oldest, then here we go. You can come up with a lot of really great instructional videos, and this is none of the theory on this stuff is like 90%, 95% right, but occasionally you'll get into like they'll name the notes incorrectly and stuff. They'll call this like a E sharp, or they'll call this like an A flat or something like that. But if you don't pay attention to the theory and you just pay attention to what they're playing and try to copy that, then a lot of their stuff is really good. They'll have like this was some of the earliest overview stuff. This is from was this? Yeah, 2008. So this is like 10 years ago. So this is kind of the early days of the overhead camera stuff. But anyway, really great stuff there. Showmethat.com. Don't buy any of their stuff probably, but go to their YouTube channel, sort their videos by the oldest stuff, and that should be pretty valuable stuff in there. And let's check the next step on this song and try to add in some of the chords. So sadly, the lesson preview has come to an end, and it's time to say goodbye to everyone watching the free streams. Of course, paying subscribers at learnpianolive.com can continue watching this lesson and several hundred others like it in the archives. So come on over and check us out. And if you like what you saw, at least like and subscribe, and then tell your friends to head on over to learnpianolive.com to start enjoying this journey with us. All right, so it's time to transition into the intermediate portion of the lesson, which is a stupid term because we're all intermediate players. Everyone has people who are worse than them. Yes, even you. And everyone has people who are better than them. Yes, even me. So I guess it's just really permission for you to leave the lesson. If you've already found something that you can practice and you can go work on, then go ahead and don't feel bad about taking off. You have not failed if this next part of the lesson doesn't make sense to you. I have failed if the previous part of the lesson didn't make sense to you. So if you still got questions, then feel free to ask those. But if you want to take off and go practice whatever you found in the first part, then that's cool. I won't be offended. As long as you're making progress, we're headed in the right direction. So let's try the next section. All right, so we're going to try to add in the bass notes for this. I'm just going to play the roots of each of these chords. The chords are all listed, like the notes from the chords are all listed on the next page. So if you want a C sharp minor, for example, then that's this chart right here. I also give it to you in the notation over here. These are all the options, all the notes that would be included in a C sharp minor. Hey, I don't know who that is. I'm here, but I'm glad you're here. So C sharp, E, and G sharp are all the notes of the C sharp minor chord. Yeah, sure thing, no problem. So then over here on the C sharp minor, when it's time for this chord, we could play all of those notes. Isn't she? We could play C sharps and E's and G sharps in there. But for right now, just the next step after playing the melody would be to play just the roots of the chord. So just the C sharp. On the F sharp chord, playing just the F sharp. On the B, playing just the B. And then on the E, playing just the E. And if you just do that, even without the track, it starts to sound pretty much like the song. So along with the track then, it's going to sound even better. Sounds something like, hopefully we can get this track to play. And a 1, 2, isn't she? That's our C sharp chord. And then F sharp. Then B. Then E. C sharp again. Then F sharp. B. E. A. C sharp. A over B, we'll talk about that in a second. Made from, and then love is the E. So then that A over B thing, that's just an A chord up here. If you're gonna add in notes in the right hand, add in notes from the A chord, but the left hand normally on an A chord would play an A. In this case, you're supposed to, the way that computers write this out, it's really confusing. If we just ignore that you've ever seen that and write it out like that, A over B, like a fraction, then that's an A on the top part, and on the lower part, it's a B. So A over B, that's the way it's supposed to be. That makes more sense. But then the way that the computer does fractions, it puts the top part on the right, or on the left, and then the bottom part on the right. And so then it's opposite of what you're supposed to be playing, because your right hand is actually playing the top part, the A, so they're backwards. So if that's confusing for you, that's just because you're a normal human being, and everybody runs into that when you type these things out. But handwritten, it'd be A over B, and that probably makes more sense there. Let's try that one more time, and I'm going to put in just, again, the chord tones, or I'm sorry, just the roots of the chords, and then maybe a little bit extra rhythm in there too, and then you can start playing around with the melody as soon as you're really comfortable with all of that stuff, which shouldn't be already probably for the vast majority of you. Still working on trying to get that melody together. And a 2, and a 1, 2. Yeah, I'll go over the triplets in a second. Yes, this is E major. Cool. So a couple questions from the chat here. These triplet things, we have them occasionally, but they're always weird. So if you are in like Clopple Academy, we don't have that sound effect tonight. If you're in Clopple Academy, like level, I think 2, it might be 3, you start running into these triplets. But even in Clopple Academy 1, level 1, you'd be able to notice that this is incorrectly written here, because this is a half rest that would get beat 1 and 2, and these are each quarter notes, which each get 1 beat. So that'd be beat 3, that'd be beat 4, and that one would be beat 5. And they're only supposed to be 4 beats in this one because we got a 4 on the top over there. Again, if that didn't make any sense or you don't care, that's fine. That has it really, if you're already playing along with us, then none of this is necessary for playing the song. But for understanding what in the world's going on here, this might be helpful. So this 3 down here with this bracket means we understand there are 3 notes here. There should only be 2 notes here. There should only be 2 quarter notes, a beat 3 and a beat 4. So what they want you to do is throw in 1 extra note in there, not like inserted, but like smash them all together inside the space of 2 notes. So we've got the space here of 2 beats or 2 quarter notes, and instead we have 3 notes. So normally we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Or if I go a little bit slower, so this makes a little more sense, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how that would be played through like one measure of this stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4. But here we're supposed to cram in 3 notes in the space of beat 3 and 4. So 3, 4. The whole thing, just make the whole thing 3, 4, but there's 3 notes. That means it's going to feel weird. It's going to be something like 1, 2, triplet. So that was 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I got in 3 notes in the space of 2. So that's why those kind of feel like a little bit off or whatever. Every time we have one of those, you can just like take a look at the song without even knowing the song and just know, oh, right there, that's going to feel funky. Right there, that's going to feel funky. Right there, that's going to feel funky. And right there. So every time, well, and those 2 as well. So every time we get to one of those things with a 3 bracket, just know everything's going to feel a little bit off because you're not going right with the drums there. You're kind of in between them. It's going to have that kind of like off balance feel. So 1, 2, isn't she lovely? Isn't she? So if you do it right, it should feel like it's maybe a little bit ahead or a little bit behind or something. Let me know if that didn't make any sense. And while you're deciding that, I'm going to go ahead and play this one more time through with just the chords, or just the roots. 1, 2. Isn't she wonderful? Triplet and F sharp and triplet. Yeah, and all those things down there at the bottom are triplets as well. That ending is too long. Man, stop playing, guys. So right here we've got triplets, and playing this is way easier than reading it. This is triplets, but these are 8th note triplets, so each one of these is supposed to get crammed inside the space of 2 8th notes, which is the size of 1 quarter note. I know, just lost some people there. But if you were with me before and you know the size of quarter notes, this should be beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. So we got to cram in these 3 notes in the space of beat 2. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, go triplet, 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 triplet. The funky thing about this one is that for the first thing right here, you're doing nothing. So it's a triplet. It's 2 notes in the space of 2 notes because the first one is just a rest. So you go, if it was triplet, if that's how we're counting, triplet, 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 the tri would have nothing in it. Triplet. And so we got a little rest there. That one's really difficult to read. But if you already know how to sing it, then you can already play it. So now I'm going to start to throw in some chord tones. Man, but I think we're supposed to do the breakdowns of the chords first. Let's go ahead and throw the chords first, and then we'll do our breakdown. Here we go. 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2. Isn't she? There's that chord. There's the F sharp chord. There's the B chord. Isn't she precious? That's the C sharp minor chord to the F sharp. There's the B chord. There's the E chord. I never. A chord. There's the G sharp. And F sharp. There's A chord over B. And then E. Yes. All right, so yes, from the chat, some great ideas here. First of all, you can just use this as a play-along track in the key of E. Because it's Stevie Wonder and he likes to do all kinds of things with the chromaticisms and stuff, every now and then you'll run into a note that doesn't quite work. For example, on all of these F sharps, that's that chord right there, and what makes that one stand out or interesting, I guess this is technically the breakdown, so let's go ahead and just call this the breakdown. So this is going to be on that F sharp. This note is not inside the key. So we've got E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and E as the key of E, like we talked about at the very beginning. So that is our key, and our chord, F sharp, has this in it, which that note is not inside the key. Both of these are. So if I just play only in the key of E and use this as a play along track for just practicing the key of E and getting familiar with it, every time I run into one of those F sharps, if I'm playing any of these notes, that's all going to sound fine and normal. But if I play one of these notes here from the key of E, that's going to sound really funky up against that note right there. That's kind of the important one. So later on when I go to solo, you'll notice that every time I get to an F sharp, I'm really kind of nailing that one down because that's kind of the crux of the whole thing. It's got this walk down thing from the C sharp minor, the 7 of that chord. I know, yeah. But the 7 of that chord goes down to the F sharp, the 3 of the F sharp chord, which wants to go down to the 7 of the B chord, which wants to go down to the E. So that thing right there, those 4 notes are kind of the key components of the key movements of the whole song. So if I just play those notes, I think you'll hear like you'll probably recognize it as, oh yeah, I think I've heard someone do that before. That's because you've heard everyone do that all the time. This thing right here. So I'm gonna just hang out here on, this is out of the C sharp chord. That's that note from the F sharp chord. That's in the B or the A over B, and there's the E. And then we go on to this A chord. Sharp, and then we're back into the C sharp to F sharp to the A over B. So if we didn't just kind of base our solo on that, then we first of all we play that through 3 million times. All right, I play that through 3 million times with just that right there, and then slowly that'll start to in your ear expand over to other things. It's really the same thing, but just got this little side step off to the side, and eventually those side steps start becoming larger and larger and larger. Not in the amount of time that it took me to say that, but in the amount of time that it takes you to practice several hours or so-ish. The good news is, like I said, this move gets used all over the place, so once you're really familiar with that thing and you can recognize it, then once we get back to that, you can use all those tools from all that practicing you've done before. So, something like... 1, 2... That's that B. Then we go up to that A chord. So that's all kind of based on that same move, and you can hear a lot of it in there. Now, if we disguise a little bit more than that, we come up with stuff like... Okay. So anyway, that's kind of the important parts of those chords. And I've talked before about a cache, contrapuntal, bummer, embellishment of a static harmony, and it kind of has the same effect to it. So it's got those little half-step moves in there. So that thing's kind of the same idea. So other things that are happening in here. We are in the key of E. If we just, that was where we started this whole thing. I was supposed to just show you what this sounded like in the key of E. If we just practice the key of E. This is all E. So that was all just messing around in the key of E, getting familiar with the key of E. Every single note was in the key of E. What you might have noticed I did was every time I came to that section with the F sharp in it, I just kind of stayed away from the A and the B, and I was safe inside the key of E as long as I didn't venture into that territory during that one chord. Cool. So then things are happening inside the key of E. The first chord that we have is a 6 chord. So if this is 1, then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the way that myself and a lot of musicians are thinking about this stuff. This C sharp minor, it's a C sharp minor, that's true, but it's more important as the 6th chord in a major key, the major key being, of course, E. This way I can take these chords into any other key. I can play Isn't She Lovely in any other key that I want. I'll have to stick with the key of E. So this C sharp minor is the 6th chord. Now this F sharp, the F sharp is inside the key of E. It'd be the 2nd chord, or the 2nd note inside the key of E. So if this is 1, this is 2. So this is the 2. However, it's a major chord. Normally, the 2 chord in the key of E would be F sharp minor. So this is a 2 chord, but it's the major version of the 2 chord. And then this is the 5 chord right here, the B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the B chord. And then this is the 1 chord right here. So really, Isn't She Lovely is a 6-2-5-1. If you've been around for very many lessons, you'll recognize that pattern. Or if you've paid attention to the Circle of Fifths, been in the Circle of Fifths workshop, then you know the 6-2-5-1 is kind of like a major deal for music. A lot of moves. A lot of songs use those moves. So then we're going from the 6 chord to the 2 chord to the 5 chord to the 1 chord. We just change that 2 to a major, and that's Isn't She Lovely. It's one of the most common progressions in the universe, except it uses a major 2. Down here, for our like not repeating section, I never thought this right here is going to be a 4 chord. That A, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what makes this bridge part, the B section, the other thing, sorry, Mr. Mark. Time, I think. We'll solve that. So this is the 4 chord, sorry. Then this G sharp is kind of a funky thing too. This is actually a major 3 chord. So G sharp is also in the key of E. It's the 3 chord, but a G sharp would normally be minor. But this one is going to be a G sharp major, so that means this is a major 3 chord. So it's got 2 chords in the song where it was supposed to be a minor chord, and then he changed it to a major chord. Then, of course, we're back to our 6-2-5-1 on this other thing, on the last part of it. So it just repeats the top part. If I play this all with diatonic chords, or chords the way they were supposed to be, with the F sharp minor for the 2 chord and a G sharp minor for the 3 chord, it would sound like something like this. Now, it sounds funky, first of all, because you expect those to be something else. But if you've never heard this song before, it would just kind of sound boring and everything just kind of stays the same. So those are the kind of the spice of the song, the major 2 and the major 3, the fact that he's got so much cycle movement going on. Also, if cycle move is a phrase that you understand from the Circle of Fifths, notice also that his bridge section goes from a 1 to a 4, which is also a cycle move. Okay, so with all that theory behind us, let's go ahead and I guess go to the advanced version of this where I just try to cover it and show you some other scale options and things like that. Here we go. And here comes the part of the lesson where I guess everybody has permission to not understand what in the world is going on. If you have understood everything so far, then great, stick with us. We probably won't even get to all the material in this lesson because there's always more on every topic. So if you have questions about what would be after this, then feel free to message me privately and I'll send you some of that stuff. But for right now, let's just get crazy and see how far we can get today. Alrighty, here we go. This will be, I guess, everything that we can do in here. So scale stuff. This stuff is pretty advanced and really super weird. When we're going to, we got that first one, the scale to use for this F sharp chord. You don't need to know the functions of all of the chords in order to come up with the correct scales for each of them. So all you really need is to try out each of the notes. You're going to come up with usually a total of 7 or 8 notes that are going to all sound like they could work as a scale. So when we go, isn't she lovely right here, I already know 4 of the notes because they're all in my chord and melody combined. So this is technically an F sharp 7, which we didn't say in the lower levels, but that's an F sharp 7 chord. And the melody right there added to the chord make it an F sharp 7. So now I've just got a question about everything in between. How do I get from this note to this note? And the best answer is just try the notes. So in this case, if I use this note here, this note was already in the original key, the key of E. So then right here, this note right here is probably going to be the right note because it's not contradicted by the chord and it was in the other original key. So all these notes together end up being a B scale, which is kind of the function of a 7 chord is as a 5 chord. Yes. So, sorry, Mr. Mark and Sarah. You're both getting the same lessons, I guess. The F sharp 7 is the 5 chord in the key of B, and so that a lot of times that's how we derive our scales. Is we say, well, what is this chord functioning as? If it's a 7 chord, if it's a dominant chord, we say, well, that'd be the 5. So if it's the 5 of whatever scale I'm supposed to use, and in this case, that actually works out to be a B major scale. So if we want to play in the key of E for the first one, isn't she lovely? And then we go to this. We could use the B major scale there. And then on the B, honestly, I'm playing all of them as B suspended or A over B, and those are the same thing, A over B or B suspended. So that's where we're back to the key of E, and Stevie Wonder is using a lot, well, he usually uses a lot of pentatonic stuff. So I would, in general, stay away from the 7 of the key and the 4 and use pentatonic stuff as much as possible to stay within his style. Of course, this track that we're playing along with is like a blues style and stuff, so we might even add in some other notes from those scales. But you guys are funny in the chat. So we're playing an E major scale, and then a B major scale, and then back to the E major scale. But trying to stay mostly pentatonic with that stuff. So so then something like an E major scale, B major, back to E, B scale, E major scale. Now we're going to go to an A major, or stay with an E major scale, but then right here, we go to this thing. Okay, so we didn't cover this in the breakdown because this is just too weird. But I never thought, right here, I never thought Beautiful. Love it. The melody's on the 9 of the chord. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I never thought through love we'd be. Now, here's our melody. It's an A. Here's our root. It's a G sharp. What in the world? That sounds I'm sorry, that one right there. Sounds super weird. It makes a little bit more sense when we call this a G sharp 7. I'm gonna take that major 3 out of there. 7. So that note right there helps to normalize that thing, which is the flat 9. So it's a G sharp 7 flat 9. Stevie Wonder would probably call that an A flat 7 flat 9. Same thing. Melody's on the 9. Melody's on the flat 9. So then we gotta again ask ourselves, well, G sharp 7 flat 9 functions as the what? And the answer to that would be it functions as the 5 chord in a minor key. So this is the 5 of some minor key. It's the 5 of C sharp minor. So all of these notes right here would be correct notes from the right scale. However, I think once we get to those thought through love we'd be, those are not wrong. However, we've got this note in the chord, and like I said before, one of the ways we get our scale is just take a look at the chord that we're playing and say, well, all of those must sound good with the chord because they're in the chord. So, so then we're going to alter our scale here to be a C sharp minor scale, except when it contradicts the chord. So we're going to take these guys up here. That's still our same chord. And we're going to play a C sharp minor scale. And this is kind of all a weird move in here. So any of these notes could work, the B or the C or the C sharp. So it's like an E major scale with a C thrown in, or it's like a C sharp minor scale with both the raised and the lowered 7. Anyway, those are all notes you could use during that section. And of course, as always, just go with whatever sounds best. But those are going to be the notes that are going to most frequently sound best. So I never thought through love we'd be. So then that ends up being like a C sharp harmonic minor scale. I never thought through love we'd be making one as lovely as she. So after you are adding in some chord tones, you've picked out your scales and you're playing some solos, then yeah, you're pretty much soloing over you're playing some solo piano stuff there. We would want to have the melody on the top and have the roots on the bottom, and anything else in the middle is free game. So it's what's sometimes called three-handed playing, where one hand is playing the melody, one hand is playing the roots, and then the middle fingers are acting as a third hand to like catch chord tones in here. So that would be something like. is this is lots of steps down the same exact path. This is, you can see the melody, you can see the bass. There's no this is not the next step that you're missing. This is several steps down the road. Okay. Okay, so some of that was cheating, but the first part was all the same exact stuff. The other thing I ran into the next week's song, which is Overjoyed, which I guess has been in my brain because it kind of came out. So, yeah, let's talk about the main points because the last part was all junk. Nothing really usable in there. But things we did talk about that were usable. Scales. Picking scales from the chords that you're playing. So if you're playing a C sharp minor chord, you know at least 4 notes of the scale you're supposed to use because you're not always supposed to use just notes from the scale of the key that you're in. So just because you're in the key of E doesn't necessarily mean, especially if you're playing a Stevie Wonder song, doesn't necessarily mean that you're supposed to be playing an E major scale the entire time. For most pop and rock songs, that is true. For Stevie Wonder and anything jazz, then there's a high likelihood that at least at one point in the song, you're supposed to be altering some of the notes, which is what makes that music so different and weird and I think cool, but at least there are parts of it that stand out. It's like, oh, that was kind of not normal. It's the notes that go outside of the key, so that those points you need new scales to go along with the chords. Other things would be we talked about the 6-2-5-1 and how we altered we I didn't have a lot to do with writing this song, but the major 2 there, we can alter those chords in there. So you can also do that with the 6 as well. And if you've been around and you know that the thing before the 6 is a 3, so 3-6-2-5-1, that's a thing, or just a 3-6-2-5 in the key. Let's go back to the key of C here. So if we played the key of C, a 1 to a 6 to a 2 to a 5, or we went 3 to a 6 to a 2 to a 5, then we can play those and alter any of those that we want, especially turning the minor ones into majors. So the 3 is a minor, the 6 is a minor, the 2 is a minor. So that's 3 chords right there. We could make any of those major chords that we wanted to, and then they would kind of stand out as specially flavorful. So if we had some song that had E minor to A minor to D minor to G, and that was just the loop. 3, 6, 2. So this time I'll make the 3 a major 3. So 2, 3, 4. Or we can make the 6 a major as well. Or just the 6. 3, 6, 2, 5. So anytime you have a 6-2-5-1 or a 3-6-2-5, you can really experiment with changing those minors into majors, which is really in the reharm territory. But we're doing Stevie Wonder. It's already reharm territory. And he's got a major 3 in there, and that's another one of the ones we said we could change. The only thing he doesn't have in the song then would be a major 6. That would be interesting. A C sharp major. That would not work with any of the melody that's there, and we'll talk about that in reharm lessons, so I won't get too far into that. Other points that we made in here, the really repetitive melody, and this is true for a lot of the Stevie Wonder stuff, where the melody, no, I'm going to say all the Stevie Wonder stuff. What I love so much about Stevie Wonder is that you take a look at his chord progressions, and they're all really funky stuff. I mean, playing a 4 chord to a major 3 with a flat 9, that's a really hard thing to pull off. And then throw in your major 2 in there. But the way that he constructs his melody, all of his melody, if you just take all the chords out, it's all really easy, simple stuff. So level 1 on this stuff is really simple. And it's that way with a lot of his songs. You just look at the melody, oh yeah, because the key of E is going to be a regular pop song, and you throw the chords in behind it, and it's like, wow, this is a really complex thing going on. So simple melody, repetitive melody, kind of funky chords, the normal root movements that you'd see, but with different majors and minors. We got the slash chord that we talked about, and how those are always written funky when they're on computers, and the flat 9, bravely putting that melody on the 9 of both of those chords. And he doesn't, is that true? He doesn't He doesn't. So all that soloing stuff, I didn't realize this. All that soloing stuff, I just told you, when you get to the F sharp chord, make sure you play that B flat or that A sharp in there, because that's really going to stand out. And none of his melody has that in it. His melody is entirely out of the key of E. So he didn't do it all, what I just instructed everyone to do and demonstrated how to do myself. We did talk about triplets. That was kind of funky. And I think that's about it for now. And we are almost into our jam session time. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this one down, and then I'll join you back on the jam session in a few minutes. Till next time, good luck, have fun, I love you, bye.